it's your phone that's plugged in the kitchen.
We'll turn it off or something. Anyway.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's show, to the Tony Pruitt Show. And today's guest is a true Dallas Cowboy and an NFL legend, to say the least. At TCU, he was a consensus All-American, a two-time All-Southwest Conference player, played with the Dallas Cowboys from 1961 to 1974, a Super Bowl VI champion, 7 times first-team All-Pro, and 2-time second-team All-Pro. He was an 11-time Pro Bowler, NFL 60s and 70s All-Decades team. He's a member of the NFL 100th Anniversary All-Time team and the first member inducted into the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor. Please welcome, and my personal favorite all-time Dallas Cowboy, number 74, Bob Lilly. How you doing, sir?
Good, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing great. So glad to have you on the show.
Well, thanks.
So we just recently had the Super Bowl. When that game comes around, does that bring by good feelings for you and good memories?
Yeah, we went to 2 while I was there. We played Green Bay in '66 in Dallas to go to the first Super Bowl, and we lost that game in the last 30 or 40 seconds.
Right.
At Green Bay in the Ice Bowl in '67 and lost that game in the last 30 or 40 seconds.
Right.
And then we went to Super Bowl V and lost to Baltimore. We had 2 interceptions toward the end of the game, and they beat us 16-13, as I recall.
Right.
And the next year, after that game, we got together and said, we are going to work all offseason. We're going to watch film. We're going to go to the Super Bowl, and we're going to win it. The next year, we went and we played Miami and beat them. They had a great team, by the way.
Yeah.
We beat them 24-3. And the next year, they won 17 in a row, the only team that's ever gone all the way through. So
that's true, yeah.
They had a great team, and we had a great deal of respect for them. But I think we decided that we're going to make a stand.
Right.
You know, like
and it worked, and you did it.
Yeah, we did. And I'm proud of my teammates.
I don't doubt you a bit. I don't blame you. As a fan, I'm pretty proud myself. So before I get started into the questions, I think one of the main impressive, and you've got your accolades are huge. You only missed 1 game your whole career. Is that correct?
Yeah, I missed a playoff game. I tore my hamstring in 2 the week before, and I missed that 1 game. I started the next game and finished tearing it in 2, and then I missed the next playoff game. But I remember Tom Mack and I were playing them in the semifinals. We won that game, and we were in the playoffs pretty much on and off from 1966.
Oh, yeah.
Until my last year. I think we were almost always in the playoffs. And I did go to 11 Pro Bowls, but the Super Bowl the first one was really exciting because we didn't know what to expect. We'd seen it, but we had never been there and done it, experienced it. But we went down to Miami and played Baltimore, and it was fun because Leroy Jordan, our middle linebacker, and Joe Namath were teammates in Alabama.
True.
Joe had a restaurant and bar in the same little town we stayed in, Fort Lauderdale. And so we went over, and he fed us basically 2 or 3 times. And Leroy, they had played Baltimore the year before and beaten them. And so, well, maybe it was 2 years before, but anyway, we got a lot of information from Joe on Baltimore, and we played a good game. We played a real good game on defense, but first play of the game, I think one of their first plays they had on offense, the ball was tipped by one of their offensive receivers. Back then, if an offensive guy tipped it, then the second offensive guy could not catch it. It was illegal to catch it.
Right.
And so anyway, but Mel Renfro got close, but he was still like 5 yards away. And they said he tipped the ball, but the offensive guys that tipped the ball, it went over and John Mackey caught it and ran it for a touchdown. They gave him a touchdown.
I remember that.
We were on the 1 foot line later in the game, and we fumbled, and Dave Manders fell on the ball, and he and Craig Martin got up off the ball, and they gave it to Baltimore. Then we had 2 interceptions in the last quarter. We were still ahead, and they scored 6 points and beat us. And so, I mean, it was like this wasn't to be. But boy, the next year Miami had a great running game. They had Zonka and Kick and Morris, and they didn't pass a lot.
Yeah.
And so we had a defense that could stop the run. Coach Landry's flex defense that's what we were made for.
Oh, sure.
And we shut them down on the run. Then they had to start passing, and then we got ahead of them. But they had a great team. We knew that.
But y'all played almost a perfect game.
We did. That was probably the most perfect game I was ever in.
Yeah.
For the whole team.
So starting from the beginning now, how did you tell us the story how you ended up playing at TCU?
Well, I grew up in Throckmorton, Texas, which is about 100 miles west of Fort Worth, and small town. We had a 7-year drought, and Dad was a custom farmer, and he bulldozed trees, and he built ponds for the ranchers, and deep plowed fields and so forth. And the farmers quit farming, and the program to get rid of the mesquite trees quit, and we were about to starve to death. And Mother was calling all our kinfolks around, and she called her first cousin up in Oregon. And so right after my junior year, like maybe the latter part of June, Dad built a trailer. He welded one together and put wheels on it, and we had a 53 Studebaker, and we had a 55 Ford, I think. And sold our house, packed what we could on the trailer, went to Pendleton. Dad went to work at the Buick place because he had a photographic memory, and he could remember all the parts. And they had a Dynaflow transmission that was pretty new, and nobody knew how to fix it, but he did. He knew what parts were bad. And so he was kind of moving around the state. And I mean, we weren't moving. Dad was just going to teach people what it was to look for. And we lived in a duplex, and I've been up there several times to my reunions and all. My sister went one time, and she measured. We lived in a duplex, and she figured out we had 640 feet. So three kids.
Oh, my Lord.
And so anyway, I knew it was kind of tight quarters. I was sleeping in the living room on the couch, and I made All-State in Pendleton, and I went around, visited Oregon State, Washington, I think Washington State, maybe Boise State. I can't remember exactly who all I visited, but every time I went somewhere on the West Coast, it was raining and there was trees, forest. I thought, I'm in the end of the world. I want to go back to Texas. And I always wanted to go to TCU because they let my dad in free, and he could bring me. And so I went to many TCU games while I was growing up.
Oh,
we even had a player, Pete Stout from Throckmorton, who played there, fullback, and that's that old single wing. So I went to TCU. They sent me a 1 cent postcard. No, we didn't even have a phone. They sent me a 1 cent postcard. Allie White was assistant coach, and he said, "Dear Robert, we're prepared to offer you a 4-year scholarship with your room and board and $10 a month laundry check and all your classes for 4 years. And if you want to go to TCU." So I borrowed. Dad at that time had bought a second car, which was an older car. And I drove the 53 Studebaker with a friend of mine who wanted to try out for the basketball there. I drove all the way from Oregon and we slept in one hotel, and the rest of the time we drove. And we stopped in Throckmorton and spent the night with my grandmother. And I borrowed $20 because they told us they were going to give us $150 a piece for our travel. So I went to TCU, and I loved it. And Larry Applegate was this fellow's name. And they said, we'll give you a 3-year scholarship because we can't give you one the freshman year. Or he had already gone to college halfway through the senior year or whatever, and he qualified, but he couldn't afford to do that. And that was a long ways from his family. So we drove back to Oregon, and my aunt and uncle, I had another aunt and uncle in Puyallup, Washington. My aunt and uncle from Fort Worth had driven up to visit them, and they picked me up, brought me back down to TCU. And that's how I started my TCU career.
Wow.
Very roundabout way, but
very roundabout way.
Wonderful. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And anyway.
Do you still follow TCU today?
Oh, yeah. I follow them. I don't go to many games anymore, just like I don't go to, I watch them anytime they're on TV. And we take the Star Telegram so I can find out what's going on. But
well, after your TCU career, you were the first Cowboy taken in the draft. Do you remember where you were and how you found out about that? Or was it in the newspaper? Did they call you?
I think it was in the newspaper, maybe the next day. Nobody called me. It wasn't a big deal back then. I mean, it was like the Texans and the Cowboys came into existence in 1960. Well, that was my senior year at TCU. But the Cowboys came late, so they didn't have draft choices because they were after the NFL draft. So they didn't have draft choices, but the next year they were their first. I was 13th pick, I think, but I was their first pick. And so the Texans had drafted me number 2. And I went and asked my coach at TCU, Abe Martin, who was a wonderful coach and a great man. And I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know. You know, he said, both the owners are nice people. They come from nice families. He was from East Texas, and he knew all those Hunts and the Murkisons. And he said, you know, if you want to stay around this area and near your family, he said, I would go with NFL. He said, because we've had 2 other leagues come in and try to make it in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they haven't made it. And so that was why I did it. It wasn't, the money was not very much. I mean, 11.5.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of money then.
But that was a lot of money then. Yes, sir.
But anyway, I wanted to play. I love football. And so I signed with the Cowboys and then just went from there. And sure enough, after my third year, that was the 4th year of the Texans, they moved to Kansas City, became the Chiefs. So I did the right thing. I listened and took advice.
You did the right thing for sure.
My parents got to come watch every game at home.
Yes, that was important.
It was.
So let's talk about, I'm sorry to bring this up, but let's talk about the Ice Bowl. I know you've been asked a million times. The day before the Ice Bowl, it was it was a cool day, I understand, but it wasn't nothing like a blizzard. And y'all were kind of, it just hit y'all by surprise. Is that correct?
Total. It was 18 degrees the day before when we went out to work out. We went 2 days early, obviously. Back then, we always went 2 days early. And we went Saturday and worked out, and the field was soft. And Coach Lombardi had put the copper tubing in the field, and they circulated hot water, and it kept it from freezing. Unfortunately, all the places where we had stepped in the soft grass and made a indention, and the next day it was like a rasp when you fell on it. It would just take your hat right off.
Oh, my Lord.
Anyway, the next morning we got up. We expected the weather to be the same. It wasn't supposed to come in until that night.
Yeah.
But in the morning, my roommate went down early to have some coffee, and I was showering. He came back up and he said, it's going to be a bad day, Bob. I mean, a cold day. He said, it's already, I think it was already 9 degrees below zero and 35-mile-an-hour wind. And by the time game time came, it was like 22 or 23 degrees below. And I think it went up to about 28 below, plus 35-mile-an-hour wind, which was 50-something chill factor. And we had no preparation. We had nothing. I mean, we did have they took a kind of like a long handle underwear that we put on under our suit. But the Packers had gloves. We didn't have gloves. They had a mask gear that went under their helmet, cloth, and they had this much room. And they were cold. I know that, but we were freezing.
Yeah.
And we still came down to the wire. But we were in the quadrant where the pipe broke. It had broken when it got so cold, and the water had come up, and it was real slippery. You couldn't get a foothold. And I told Leroy, I said, we need to call timeout and get a screwdriver out here and dig Jethro on me a couple of holes. They're going to run up the middle. They had tried to play just before, and they tried to run an end run, and the running back slid down. And so I knew they weren't going to run wide, and they weren't going to pass, but they ran up the middle, and they ran a double team Jethro, and Mercine was the running back that day, fullback. He was a short guy and heavy and had good balance, and he hit Bart in the rear and kind of knocked him moving forward.
Yeah.
But we had no footing. I mean,
they're playing on a sheet of ice, I would imagine.
It was really a sad day coming home. I mean, it was like we had it won. I mean, it was like, but we couldn't stand up.
Right.
So anyway.
Wow. Well, you were the first Cowboy inducted into the Hall of Fame. What does that mean to you personally?
Well, it was something, my dad's hero was Sammy Ball.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy Ball was from a town not terribly far from where I grew up. He went to TCU. That's why Dad always took me to watch TCU. But Sammy was already gone, but he was in the Hall of Fame. And I never really understood what the Hall of Fame was, to tell you the truth, until I got there. I knew it was a big, huge honor, but oh my goodness, when you get there, they walk you around all the bronze heads of all the people that started way back.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And a lot of them were my heroes. We finally got TV in the 50s, and I was able to watch some pro football. But anyway, it was like this was really great, and I mean, it was an extremely exciting time. Our whole family came up, and they put everybody up and took care of the airfares for the family, and they really was just wonderful. And the parade was huge, and I remember there was only four of us at that time. I was Deacon Jones, myself, Herb Adderley, and who was the other guy?
Well, he lost both of his legs. Sally and
Jim Otto.
Jim Otto, yeah.
Yeah. So we had a great class, and we remained friends. Deacon passed away, and Jim I think, had both legs taken off by now, and I haven't seen him at the Hall of Fame in the last few years. I'm very miss him. And Herb never came back.
He did never come back?
Never came back. And Deacon, he was our leader at the Hall. He was our rah-rah guy. It was fun. I mean, it was great. The thing was so great, and I believe there was so many of the old timers that came back that were my heroes.
Sure.
And we mingled with them. And I mean, this was big thing for me. We had a restaurant and bar in the hotel we stayed in, and we would go down and mingle and talk. And I am talking to my heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think much about me being a hero. I was thinking about, here I am among Unitas and all these guys.
You're right there with them.
Yeah, right there with them. That was a big time for me.
Now I see you on TV still now. I mean, you still go to the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, I have missed 3. I think I was 40.
Yeah,
42 years or whatever it is.
Not bad. Well, since we're talking about that, let's talk about the Ring of Honor. You were the first Cowboy in the Ring of Honor. What did that mean to you? And tell us that, if you could, tell us that story, how that happened. That's kind of a neat story.
Well, I don't know. I retired, and they always wanted me to come introduce well, that was after I got in it, but they always had me there. I think I was there that day to be with Brad Sham, doing the part of the play-by-play. But anyway, they took me over to the booth, and they told me that I was going out at halftime. They were going to honor me, and I didn't have any idea. And Clint Murkison made a little talk, and I couldn't hear much because of reverberation. But anyway, they were talking about helping the kids through college and talking about, they didn't mention the Ring of Honor until the end. And they had my name up there and my number and the years I played, and they had it covered. And it was covered in canvas, kind of the same color as the background.
Right.
And they had a rope on it, but the rope didn't work. And so they I saw them kept pulling on that rope, and finally somebody climbed up there and undid it. And they introduced me as Bob Lilly, the first member of the Cowboys Ring of Honor. And
wow.
So I rode around in a convertible and what?
And you
in my uniform. Yeah, I had my uniform. They wanted me to put my uniform on. I
For
thought
the last time.
last time that was it.
didn't you think that was a little odd? They asked you to suit up. Did you not have a clue?
I had no clue. I knew they were honoring me somehow.
Right.
I didn't have any idea about the Ring of Honor. Nobody even mentioned Ring of Honor.
Wow.